Today we're comparing 5 of the more popular robotic lawnmowers on the market, and I'm going to answer the question I get asked here on Home Lawn Care with Greg Phillips quite frequently. Which robot lawnmower should you buy? Now, Worx is sponsoring today's video, but as always, the opinions expressed in this video are strictly my own and what I have found. My goal isn't to tell you which mower to buy, it's to help you determine which robotic lawnmower is the best fit for your lawn, your property, the turf species that you're growing, and the way that you're maintaining it. One thing I've learned is to buy a mower that is rated for at least 20 to 30% more than the actual area that you wish to maintain. For example, if you have a 3/4 acre lawn, I would strongly suggest getting a lawnmower that mows up to an acre, so you take full advantage of all the options on the mower. Also, I want to explain how I'm approaching this comparison because it's a little different than what you would see online or on YouTube. Over the last 2 years, I have tested nearly 20 different robot lawnmowers from 12 different manufacturers on 3 different properties. Before YouTube, I spent nearly 4 decades in the turfgrass industry as an agronomist and golf course superintendent. So I'm evaluating these machines a little differently than the average homeowner would. I'm looking at cut quality, navigation, slope performance, long-term ownership, customer support, battery replacement, ease of setup, and ultimately which mower gives the homeowners the best overall value. Today, we're comparing 5 robotic lawnmowers: the Worx Landroid WR344, Mammotion Luba all-wheel drive, MOVA 3000, the Navimow X430, and Seeker Tron. Now, I want to say something before we get started. These are all good robotic lawnmowers. There really isn't a bad mower here. Each one has strengths. Each one has weaknesses. By the end of this video, I'm going to tell you where I think each mower excels, which one I think offers the best overall value for most homeowners. Let's start by the very first thing every homeowner experiences when getting a robot lawnmower: setup. Because honestly, if setup is frustrating, it doesn't matter how good the mower is after that. This category surprised me. The easiest mowers for me to install were the Worx WR344, the MOVA 3000, and the Navimow X430. All 3 were straightforward. Mapping was simple. Communication between the mower and the app was excellent. The Worx particularly impressed me because its cloud RTK system eliminates the need for a traditional RTK base station while still giving very accurate positioning. That means fewer components to install, less wiring, less hardware in the yard, no RTK antenna to mount on the roof, fence, and no concerns about maintaining a strong connection between the mower and the separate base station. The MOVA was also extremely easy to set up. Its LiDAR-based navigation system made mapping quick and intuitive. The Navimow X430 continues to be one of the easiest robot lawnmowers I have seen to set up. It combines RTK positioning with VisionSense AI technology, allowing it to continue navigating even while satellite reception becomes limited. The software is mature, navigation is excellent, and the mapping process is one of the best in the industry. Now, on the other hand, the Mammotion Luba Mini all-wheel drive gave me more challenges. For example, my mother-in-law's property, I put it there for them to use, I experienced repeated communication issues during setup that made the process considerably more frustrating than the others. Your experience may be different, but certainly it wasn't as smooth as the Worx, MOVA, or Navimow. The Air Seekers also required a little more effort than what I expected. Again, not impossible, just quite as not as polished as the top 3. If I were ranking setup by itself, Worx, Navimow, MOVA, all would receive excellent marks. Before I get into individual categories, remember there isn't a one robotic lawnmower that's perfect for every homeowner. Best mower for flat Kentucky bluegrass lawn may not be the best choice for a steep property with Bermuda grass, for example. That's where we're going to look at each category separately. Now let's look at navigation technology. One thing buyers focus today is RTK, LiDAR, vision systems, and cloud RTK. There's a lot of marketing technology out there, and it can be confusing. What matters to me is much simpler. Does the mower know where it is? And does it mow efficiently? The Worx uses cloud RTK combined with stereo vision V-SLAM technology. The result is navigation performance that in my testing has been comparable to some LiDAR equipped mowers, which surprised me, without the added complexity and experience of LiDAR hardware. The MOVA uses LiDAR technology and it performs extremely well. The Navimow X430 combines RTK with Vision Sense technology and has one of the most refined navigation systems that I have used. The Mammotion also uses RTK with advanced sensing technology. Air Seekers relies heavily on its 360-degree AI vision system. For me, navigation isn't what separates these three anymore. The differences show up elsewhere. Now let's get to something that really matters. How does the lawn actually look? Because at the end of the day, that's why we're buying these machines. The MOVA 3000 produces one of the nicest looking cuts I've seen. The striping is excellent. Coverage is very uniform. It leaves the lawn looking professionally maintained. The Navimow X430 is pretty close, however, there are some tearing issues that I'll talk about later. Its navigation allows it to cut a very straight mowing lines and can be an attractive appearance when finished. The Worx has also produced excellent cuts. Striping was very straight, coverage was consistent.
And when you get stripes like this, then you do that cross striping and you get that checkerboard look, and the Worx delivered on that. Worx also has an edge cutter that you can adjust manually there on the side. You can bring that blade up and down to where it cuts the absolute edge. MOVA has a feature where the disc actually turns to one side or the other. But what this does is these two mowers in particular gives you a really close edge cut when you're mowing around the edge of obstacles and the edge of your lawn.
Air Seekers was a little different. I noticed the striping wasn't nearly as straight as the others. In my testing, it produced more of a wavy appearance. One thing I do like about the Air Seekers, however, is its mulching capabilities. That's a unique feature that some homeowners will appreciate. The Mammotion striped reasonably well, but compared with the Worx, Navimow, and MOVA, its stripes simply weren't as crisp or as noticeable in my lawn. For pure appearance, I'd put the MOVA and the Worx right up there. Now let's talk about what probably is the number one question I receive about robotic lawnmowers. How do they perform on hills and difficult terrain? This is where people get a little confused. This is where robot lawnmowers do indeed separate themselves. It's one thing to mow a perfectly flat yard. It's another thing entirely to handle slopes, uneven terrain, ruts, drainage swells, walkways, curbs, transitions between different elevations in your lawn. On paper, all these mowers are impressive. The Worx 344 and the Navimow X430 both are rated for 84% slopes. The Mammotion Luba and the MOVA are rated for around 80% slopes. The Air Seekers comes in at approximately 65% slope. Those are manufacturer ratings. So what do those slopes actually mean? A 65% slope means the ground rises 6.5 feet for every 10 foot of horizontal difference. That's still a very steep residential slope. This is what Air Seekers is rated for. Now, I will have to say that sometimes the issues that I had with it, it had a tendency to run down hills when slopes get close to that 65%. The Mammotion performs very well on steep slopes, but I think its omnidirectional front wheels make cross slope cutting a little bit more challenging than the other designs. The MOVA uses the Omni wheel configuration as well, although it performs very well, and I still prefer independent front wheel design used by the Worx and Navimow when mowing across steep slopes.
See how the MOVA is compensating for this because the omnidirectional wheels can move right or left as well as front and back. So it's actually pushing those wheels further up the hill to compensate and make sure it cuts. Here's the Worx going up and down slope with that independent wheel like the Navimow 430 and of course the Worx. Here it is in the wet, in the rain, going uphill, and it's not slipping a bit. Just a rain operation, if you will. Generally, most of them don't recommend you do it at that while it's raining. However, they have a rain sensor on it, which on all these mowers, they have a rain sensor that you can adjust and have it actually go back to the docking station during times of rain. But I wanted to show you this here in the wet, in the rain, and how well it actually performs in basically the worst possible conditions you could have. These are rugged lawnmowers, and at the end of the day, slope is just not an issue. They're rated for greater than 80% slope.
What is that? Greater than 80% slope is almost one-to-one grade. It's so steep, most homeowners would have difficulty walking straight up it without slipping. With Navimow, MOVA, and Worx, I'll be honest with you, slopes just aren't an issue. However, as I mentioned, I like the Navimow and Worx because they do not have the omnidirectional wheels. Also, the Navimow and Worx have excellent ground clearance as well. That's a bonus when cross-cutting, straddling landscape beds, sidewalks, curbs, and other obstacles. They just don't get stuck as easy. Both maneuver extremely well. Both have the ability to recover from a momentary loss of traction or encounter uneven ground. I particularly like the independent front wheel steering of both these models. It gives them excellent maneuverability around obstacles, help them work themselves out of situations where other mowers may indeed struggle. The Mammotion and the MOVA use the omnidirectional configuration. Now, I don't dislike that, but I do think it limits their ability to recover in certain situations. Occasionally, they'll find themselves in a position where they're trying to climb out of a depression or maybe a landscape bed and try to make a sharp correction, and the front wheel design simply won't give them the same flexibility to work them out of that situation. The Air Seeker struggled the most in my test property, but it is only rated for a 65% slope as opposed to the other 4 lawnmowers. It had more difficulty climbing slopes and recovering when it became stuck than the other 4 mowers in this comparison. If your property has significant hills, this is one category I pay pretty close attention to. Now let's talk about obstacle avoidance. A few years ago, obstacle avoidance was one of the bigger differences in robotic lawnmowers. Today, honestly, I think the industry has really caught up in this category. At this point, I really consider all 5 of these mowers to be very good to excellent. None of them really stood out enough for me to say one is dramatically better than the other. Would there be slight differences? Certainly, but not enough that I would choose one mower above the other based solely on obstacle avoidance. Ever wonder why manufacturers often talk about wildlife protection? Most of that comes from Europe, by the way, where hedgehogs are common. They often curl up instead of running away as a defense mechanism, so obstacle avoidance becomes much more important there in regards to wildlife than here in the United States. I think the explanation of why manufacturers focus on wildlife is something at least the American audience needs to be aware of. Hedgehogs, when threatened, will not move and the mower may harm them. So why they stress the obstacle avoidance for the wildlife. I wanted to give you that explanation in case you start seeing these websites and doing research and wonder what the devil's with the hedgehogs. There again, here in the United States, it's really not an issue. It's a question I get from folks concerned about wildlife and or mowing at night. And yes, you can mow at night. All models I'm speaking about here are extremely quiet. And there again, as an agronomist, it's not a bad move mowing during cooler nighttime temperatures, particularly when temperatures during the day are over 95 degrees. It's one of the many advantages robot lawn mowers can actually improve turf quality in many ways. For more on turf quality and lawn maintenance and the benefits of robot lawn mowers, subscribe to my channel Home Lawn Care with Greg Phillips right here on YouTube. That brings me to cutting height. Now, here, my background, I have noted many reviewers and companies have worked with over the years overlook cutting height. Cutting height matters, depending on the turf species you have in your lawn. Now, if you have tall fescue, cool season grasses, Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass, the Worx cutting range is not going to be an issue at all. It's going to do very well. However, if you're maintaining hybrid Bermuda grass, for example, below 1.5 inches cutting height, you need to know that the WR344 Worx only cuts down to approximately 1.5 inches. That's one area where I think the X430 from Navimow has a real advantage. It offers a much lower mowing height, making it a better choice for homeowners who like to maintain Bermuda grass at those low mowing heights below 1 inch. So where I think the Worx is an excellent mower, this is one area where buyers should honestly consider what type of lawn they have and the cutting height that they wish to maintain. If you're growing cool season turf, it's just not an issue. As an agronomist and former golf course superintendent, I would not recommend maintaining cool season grasses below that 1.5 inch threshold at any time. However, hybrid Bermuda, it can make a great deal of difference on cutting height when choosing a robotic lawnmower. So this may influence your decision. Now let's move beyond mowing performance, because eventually every robot lawnmower is going to need customer support. This is where I think company infrastructure becomes very important. Worx has been around for quite some time, and they have an established product line. They're sold through major retailers like Lowe's, and they have been established customer service network. That gives me confidence from a long-term ownership standpoint. The Navimow also has been very good as well. I've had positive experiences with their support and engineering staff over the years. My MOVA has performed extremely well for me, although I haven't had much interaction with customer service, simply because I haven't needed it with them. The Mammotion has been a little different, however. During my review process, I experienced slower communication than I would have preferred, and support often relied on chat-based interactions. That doesn't necessarily mean every customer will have the same experience, but it is something I think homeowners should consider when buying a mower. Personally, I still like being able to pick up the phone and talk with someone when I need help, at least during normal business hours. Air Seekers also has been difficult to reach when I've had questions. Again, that's simply been my experience in talking with these companies. Customer service becomes more important the longer you own these machines as well. One engineering feature that deserves special attention is the steering system. Not all robotic lawnmowers turn the same way. The Worx WR344 uses an articulating body with an independent power active front wheel steering. Rather than relying almost entirely on rear wheel drive and pivot the mower, the front wheels actually steer the machine through the turn. That produces several advantages. The turning radius is smoother. The mower adapts better to uneven terrain, and perhaps the most importantly, it helps reduce turf abrasion during turning. The Navimow X430 also uses active front wheel steering design. However, during my testing on my Bermuda grass lawn, I observed some minor turf scuffing during tighter turns under certain conditions. That may be related to differences in steering calibration, traction, turf conditions, or the length of the mower. The MOVA 3000 and the Air Seekers used an Omni front wheel drive design. In my testing, the Omni wheels themselves were not the issue. Rather, I observed the rear wheels could occasionally dig into the turf during tighter turns, because it's almost a zero turn type turn, particularly on thinner turf and soft soil conditions. That's where I noticed the majority of the turf disturbance. The Mammotion Luba all-wheel drive uses the Omni wheel design, but its rubber wheels have more rounded profile and tend to make gentler turns. During testing, I observed noticeably less disturbance than experienced with the MOVA or Air Seekers. Based on my own testing, if minimizing turf disturbance during turning is one of your priorities, I would rank these as follows: the Worx WR344, Mammotion Luba, MOVA 3000, Air Seeker Tron, and the Navimow X430. Keep in mind, this is my rankings reflecting on my experience on the three properties that I test these mowers on. Turf species, soil moisture, mowing frequency, slope, and lawn conditions can all influence how many robot lawnmower performs. Now let's talk about batteries. Now, batteries, this category, something no one talks about, but they should. Eventually, every rechargeable battery will wear out. That's true whether it's a robotic lawnmower, a drill, your cell phone. The question isn't if you need a new battery, it is when you need one. So how much does it cost? One thing I really like about the Worx is they use a power share technology battery on their platform. The battery is removable. If it eventually reaches the end of its life, you simply replace it. You can walk into a Lowe's or another power share battery online, and you're back to mowing. That also means the same battery can be used in many other Worx outdoor power equipment tools. And I think that's kind of neat. To me, that's a major advantage. Some robot lawnmower manufacturers use proprietary batteries. When those batteries eventually wear out, replacement can become extremely expensive. For example, replacement batteries on some premium robotic lawnmowers can cost hundreds of dollars. Few of the extreme examples that I've experienced with robotic lawnmower brands is Limo, for example. It has an easy compartment to replace the battery, but a new battery costs over $500. Some exceed over $1,000, like Yarbo. The battery for it is $1,100 or more to replace. When reviewing those mowers, battery replacement came to my attention. When battery replacement approaching the cost of a new lawnmower, that's something homeowners should be thinking about before making a purchase. Long-term ownership costs matter. I think Worx deserves a lot of credit in keeping this simple, likely the industry leader here. At the time of this filming of this video, replacement power share battery cost around $150. Now, that's reasonable. Plus, you don't use it in other Worx tools as well. Now let's talk about value, not simply price, value. Because the cheapest mower isn't always the best buy. The most expensive mower isn't always the best mower. When I look at all this per category, I consider ease of setup, navigation, slope performance, customer support, battery replacement, long-term ownerships, overall reliability, and then price. The Navimow is a very good mower. MOVA is a very good mower. I don't think you would make a mistake in purchasing either one of those. But when I look at what the Worx WR344 Landroid offers, 1 acre capacity, cloud RTK navigation without the traditional RTK base station. In my experience, it's a cloud RTK and vision system that performs much like a LiDAR equipped mower. It's much better than traditional RTK systems, especially during setup and in more complex environments. Excellent in slope capabilities, very easy setup, removable power share battery, strong customer support, and a price that's very competitive with the rest of the similar qualifications of the Landroid on the market. I think this represents one of the best overall values on the market today. When I look at what the Worx WR344 Landroid offers, 1 acre capability, cloud RTK navigation without a traditional RTK base station, in my experience, the cloud RTK and vision system perform much like a LiDAR equipped mower than a traditional RTK system, especially during setup and more complex environments. It has excellent slope capability, very easy setup, removable power share battery, strong customer support, and a price that's very competitive with the rest of robot lawnmowers of comparable size on the market. I think it represents one of the best overall values today. After testing nearly 20 robotic lawnmowers from nearly a dozen different manufacturers over the last 2 years, and drawing from nearly 4 decades of experience as a golf course superintendent and agronomist, I think the Worx WR344 mower, I would have no hesitation in recommending it to the vast majority of homeowners. If you've made it this far in the video, I'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe to the channel for more professional lawn care advice from a seasoned agronomist and golf course superintendent. And tell me which robotic lawn mowers out of the 5 we looked at would be best for your lawn. Leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel for experienced education on your home lawn so you can have the lawn that you want. And again, I'm agronomist Greg Phillips. Thanks for watching.